everybody? It is Saturday. It's been a wonderful Saturday so far. Got to come home from work, got to go to jiu-jitsu, get some rolls in. But we're not here to talk about me, okay? We're here to talk about the national championship coming up on Monday in a couple days, okay? Indiana versus Miami. Indiana, the most efficient, most consistent, high effort team in the country. You never got to question their effort, okay? They're out there to do a job. They care more about winning than they do their own personal success, okay? They are not a selfish team whatsoever, and it shows, okay? That's why they have dominated throughout these playoffs so far, and that's why they are undefeated, okay? They care more about winning than anything else, and it is obvious when you watch the film, all right? Now, Miami, they're one of the most gifted athletic teams in the country, okay? I mean, you've heard it numerous times. They're one of the few teams athletically that can just line up on the field, and you're like, that's that team, man. They're right there with Ohio State, State, Georgia's. They're right there with everybody. Okay, they have numerous guys that could go in the first round in this upcoming draft. Okay, possibly two that go top 15, if not earlier. Okay, they are very gifted. They are very athletic, and when they are on, they are great, and they've been great in these playoffs. Okay, does their style of play wow you? No. Since basically their second loss, they're going to ground and pound you to death, and they're just going to beat you up. They're going to bully you. All right. We'll see how that fares. Okay. I mean, you got the big, strong O line from Miami versus this finesse style defense in Indiana, especially up front. All right. So it's just a battle of who's better in that type of situation. Okay. Just two completely different styles. Who's going to win out? Okay. And I love the matchup of this game. Okay. And you can see it going either way, to be honest. I know Miami is a huge underdog in this one. I believe it's 9 right now. But like I said just a second ago, I think this game is going to come down to the line of scrimmage. Which team is going to win the line of scrimmage on both sides of the ball? Okay. Because no one's been able to run the ball on Miami in these playoffs. Okay. This D line is absolutely elite. They've shown it. All right. But Indiana's O line is no slouch either. All right. I've seen what they did to Alabama. I've seen what they did to Oregon. All right. They do a job. You're going to hear that a lot throughout this video because Indiana, they do a job. They do what they have to do. Okay. No selfishness, just straight up high effort, get the job done. All right. So, and we'll talk about it more here in a minute. But like Miami, like I said a minute ago, they have the size and power up front, man. Like they are big on the offensive line. How do they fare with these sim pressures from Indiana? How do they fare with these stunts from Indiana? Okay. Because if you can pick up the stunt and drive them, you can make some stuff happen. You can get some plays. The problem is, no one's really stopped the stunts. Nobody stopped the sim pressures. They have ate them alive. All right. We talked about efficiency. Okay. Indiana is highly, highly efficient. They're like, I don't know if there's like a success rate on plays, like a percentage wise, but whatever Indiana's is, I imagine it's one of the highest in the country, if not the highest. Okay. They show up and they play. Now, Miami, like I said, when they are good, they are great. But when they are bad, it can be really bad. All right. We saw that in their 2 losses. Okay. They laid 2 gigantic eggs in a land far, far away in the middle of the regular season. Okay. They went to SMU, penalties hurt them bad. When they played Louisville at home, they threw 4 picks. And at the end of the day, you threw 4 picks and you were still in the game. And when you threw that last one, you were driving down to win the game. All right. So it's not like they just aren't good. Okay. They're obviously good. They're in the national championship. They went in and beat an 11-1 Texas A&M. They went in and beat a 1-loss Ohio State, who was number 1 in the country, all the way up to the Big Ten championship. Okay. But they have to avoid mistakes. Indiana has ate Alabama and Oregon alive in these playoffs because they make mistakes, especially Oregon. All right. First play of the game versus Oregon, they got a pick 6. Okay. Carson Beck, you're going to have to be on. I know you've been honestly tremendous since that second loss. Okay. He threw 6 picks in your 2 losses. I believe he's thrown 2 since. All right. The only thing Miami's really had a problem with recently is the fumbles. They've had a few fumbles that could have been very, very, very costly, but they haven't cost them. Okay. Especially the A&M one. The fumble at the middle of the field versus A&M, but your defense came through. You got to stop. You made them punt, and you didn't win the game because of it. Okay. But let's get down nitty-gritty type. All right. Indiana, you got to eliminate Miami's pass rush. I feel like you got to have a game plan similar to Ole Miss in that second half. Okay. You got to have tire them out. That is going to be a big one. Listen, Fernando Mendoza, he hasn't had to be Superman this year. I believe he has one game over 300 yards passing. Miami, they're going to have to make him be Superman, I feel like. But in terms of Indiana, you're going to have to tire out that front. If you can eliminate that pass rush, kind of like Ole Miss did Miami get pressure on Chambliss? Yes. But they were able to limit it because they worked the quick game, and Indiana specializes in that. They're an RPO heavy team. And Mendoza, when he's dialed in, he is very, very hard to stop. Okay. That man is very accurate, and he has a laser on him. But you got to get those going. And I feel like that goes directly into the run game. If you can get a run game, you can slow down the pass rush. That's just a common, normal football thing, man. You get a run game, you slow down the pass rush because you can't just get up and go. All right. And no one's ran the ball on Miami. Okay. Ole Miss had the big 70-something yard run, but they didn't do anything on the ground outside of that, really. Okay. Can Indiana run the ball on them? In their close games, I can't even say losses because they don't have one. Okay. In their close games, Ohio State, 13-10 win. They only had 118 yards rushing. Okay. Sorry. 3.5 yards per carry. Penn State, 108 yards rushing, 3.5 yards per carry. Iowa, 104 yards rushing, 2.7 yards per carry. Oregon, 111 yards rushing, 3 yards per carry. Those were Oregon the first time around. I'm sorry. And those were all kind of close. I mean, Ohio State 13-10, Penn State, you won at the very end. Iowa, close game. Okay, you were up by 5, took safety, whatever. And then Oregon won by 10 in Eugene. But they didn't run the ball truly effectively in those games. So if Miami can stop the run, how does that affect this Indiana offense? And I feel like it puts more on Fernando Mendoza's shoulders. He's a Heisman winner. I feel like he could have to truly prove it on Monday. Okay, because I know a lot of people doubt it. So whatever, he's a quarterback in an undefeated team, and his stats look great. All right, can you back it up here versus Miami? All right, I've doubted you a lot. Okay, you'll get my prediction later, and go back to the run D. Miami, throughout the year, they have the sixth best run defense statistically, 2.95 yards per carry. Okay, sub 3 yards per carry. It's great. 86.5 yards per game. But Indiana has a great run D too. All right, Indiana, second in the country, 2.87 yards per carry, 75 yards per game. The difference is here, Indiana's rush offense throughout the season is 12th in the country with 5.3 yards per carry, 218 yards per game. But I've seen other offenses with similar type stats get shut down by Miami in these playoffs. Okay, Miami's run O is ranked 72nd in the country, 4.4 yards per carry, 154 yards per game, but I don't care about that. Okay, because this style of play they have truly shown in the playoffs has been centered around the run game. They don't care that they're not rushing for 250, 300. They don't care. They do not care that their stats aren't unbelievable on the ground because they're going to beat you 3 to 4 at a time. That's what they've shown throughout these playoffs. Okay, they did to A&M. They just kept slow and slow and slow. In the fourth quarter, it busted open. Okay, versus Ohio State, they beat them 3 to 4 at a time, and then bust open. Okay, and then Ole Miss, they truly just beat them 3 to 4 yards at a time. Long sustained drives, 41 minutes with the ball. Okay, versus Ole Miss, they had 191. Ohio State 153, A&M 175. Mark Fletcher has been a bell cow. Sharmar Brown started to show up these last two games. In the fourth quarter of Ohio State, he closed the game out. And then Ole Miss, he had a bunch of good carries. Like, that is going to be crucial. That's where the power aspect of this O-line comes into play. Like, can you get those 3 to 4 consistently? If you can get the 3 to 4 consistently and shut down these stunts, you're going to end up busting a big one. Okay, just like you did versus A&M. You ate up the stunt and you got some big runs there. Okay, the only thing different is Indiana don't miss tackles. They're very good. They're very effective. They do the little things. They do all the little things. They do them really good. Okay, so that's something that Miami is going to have to fight through. All right, Miami's going to have to play this game slow and in control. Okay, you're going to have to slow down Indiana's offense. Keep your defense fresh, but then offense, I think you got to keep playing that same style. If you can, stick to the run and keep hammering it down their throat if you can. Okay, And it eventually comes to a point where you have to throw the ball and you just can't run it. Okay, I get it. But if you can limit the mistakes, the potential mistakes throughout the passing game, because you're more prone to mistakes in the passing game, everybody is, and you have a quarterback who has shown to be turnover prone, let's run the damn ball. All right. And I think that's what Miami wants to do. They want to beat you down 3 to 4 at a time. They want to bully you. They're just going to have to slow down these. I mean, Indiana, they're going to come with the stunts. Can this Miami Jesus, I can't talk right now. Crap. Can this Miami O-line handle them up front? And I'm going to keep coming back to it because that is my biggest thing for this game, handling Indiana's front. Okay. If you can shut down them stunts and you can make stuff happen, you beat them 3 to 4 at a time, you can win this game. It won't be pretty. It won't be something that everybody just loves to watch. I personally do. Okay. Beat them down, bully them. Because when you beat somebody down and bully them for 4 quarters, eventually the big one comes. And you've seen it throughout the playoffs. Mark Fletcher has got it done. Okay. And 3 to 4 at a time, what does that get you? It gets you third and short. All right. But we're not talking about third and short. We're going to talk about third down as a whole. Okay. Both teams, all right. Indiana up first in the playoffs, just the playoffs. Indiana's offense is 11 of 14 versus Oregon on third down. They were 8 of 13 versus Alabama. Okay. That is very, very, very good. All right. Their defense versus Alabama, they let up 9 conversions on, oh, wait, I just messed up. I'm sorry. Offense versus Oregon, 11 of 14 on third down. Their defense versus Oregon, 8 of 13 on third down. They let up 8 conversions on third down. Okay. Versus Alabama, though, the defense only let up 3 for 11. Okay. I got my numbers wrong here. But in Alabama, they converted 9 of 14 on third down. The offense has converted great on third down. Throughout the season, they have a 58% third down conversion percentage. It's number one in the country, and it's not close. All right, number one in the country. It's not close. The defense allows a 30% conversion rate, which is 8th in the country. All right, they are great on third down. All right, Oregon had some success on third down, but it didn't matter because look at the scoreboard. Okay, now Miami, versus Ole Miss, 11 of 19 on third down, and then a couple fourth down conversions in that game too. Okay, 3 to 4 at a time. 3 to 4 at a time gets first downs. Okay, their defense only allowed 2 conversions on 10 attempts from Ole Miss. Okay. Versus Ohio State, they were 50% on third down on offense, 7 of 14. Ohio State only converted 3 of 10 on third down. So I'm going to give just the playoffs. Miami has the advantage on third down defense. And third down offense, you can go either way on this one. That's going to be a key factor for me, man. If Miami can just put themselves in third and short situations, it could get very, very interesting. But you're going to have to get Indiana off the field. I mean, Oregon, you saw them get some pressure and you saw some chaotic plays. I mean, Mendoza put the ball on the ground twice. All right. He fumbled the ball twice and it just, stuff fell Indiana's way. All right. I mean, you had Dante Moore, RPO, and he hits the running back with the ball. Okay. Fumble, you get the ball inside the 5. Okay. You had a block punt, second half. Okay. Just constantly making plays and stuff going your way. Okay. And that's not a bad thing. If you constantly beat up on somebody, stuff is going to go your way. And you've seen that from both these teams. All right. So I've said it once, I've said it twice, I've said it a million times. We're just going to break down these a little quick for each team. Can Miami win up front on both sides of the ball? Okay. On defense, you got Mesidor, you got Bain, you got a stacked up front, man. You're going to have to beat this Indiana O-line up. Okay. I'm not saying you got to just get constant pressure. If you can do what you did versus Ohio State and just eat Julian, like how you eat Mendoza alive, how you ate Sane alive, you're going to make plays. You sacked Marcel Reed 7 times. Miami almost had as many sacks on Marcel that game as Marcel got sacked the entire season. Okay. If you give that type of performance versus Indiana, I really love your chances to win this game. Okay. You're going to have to win. Mesidor's going to have to get after him. Bain's going to have to get after him. They got a little beat up in the Ole Miss game, injury-wise, across the board. How healthy are they? And how do they perform here? I know Mesidor got a little banged up, but he kept playing. Okay, you lost the defensive tackle. How does that affect you here? Okay. But I feel like they're very good and very deep. They have multiple defensive tackle bodies, and then Bain gets after it. Mesidor gets after it. I love this defensive line. I do question how they perform versus Indiana O-line and versus this RPO scheme. Okay, because like I said earlier, if Indiana can eliminate this pass rush with these quick passes, you just work quick game, you're going to eliminate the pass rush. All right, and then Miami is a different team when you do that. Okay, you saw it versus Ole Miss. Ole Miss put up 27 because they were able to eliminate the pass rush with the quick game. Okay, but the bigger one for me is, can they stop the run? Because if they stop the run and force them into that, it changes the game. If you make them commit to the pass and just give up on the run, you got Indiana in an uncomfortable situation. And that's going to be the key, because Indiana hasn't been uncomfortable much this year at all. I think the one time I truly seen them uncomfortable was versus Penn State on the last drive when they went down and won the game. Okay, that's the only time I think they were truly uncomfortable. And you do get an advantage. You get them at home. I know it's a national championship, but you do get them at home. The only problem is you don't really fill out your stadium, and Indiana has shown to travel in these playoffs because they're in uncharted territory. They may never experience this again in their minds, okay? They will. They got Signetti. They're going to keep going. They're going to keep rolling. But they're in uncharted territory. They want to experience it because Indiana's going to load out with fans, guarantee it, okay? So just because you're at home, you don't have to travel, none of that. That's the advantage. I don't feel like you'll have a true home field advantage outside of being at home. If that makes sense. Okay. No, it sounds weird. But yeah. So winning up front, said about the defense, now the offense. I've said it multiple times, probably about the 7th time I brought it up. Can you handle the finesse of this Indiana front? Okay. Can you handle the stunts? Can you handle the sim pressure? Because if you do, you're going to have a great day, especially if you can handle the stunts. Okay. Oregon did a bad job picking up the sim pressures. How are you going to pick them up? Okay. You cannot be confused. I mean, they're going to load the box and then send 4, send 3. They're going to get at you, though, because you have no idea which one's coming. How well does Carson Beck? He's a 3-year starter now. How well does he dissect this defense? How well does he see things? Okay. And then it goes into my next point. Can they play clean? I've said it earlier. They almost had a few costly turnovers, or they had the costly turnover, just ended up being costly. All right. They had a fumble early versus Ohio State. They had the fumble versus A&M. The missed field goals versus A&M. You got to play clean. Carson Beck, if this game does get put on his shoulders, how does he perform? Do we see fourth quarter, last drive of the game versus Ole Miss, Carson Beck slinging lasers all over the field? Or do we see Louisville, Carson Beck throwing 4 picks? Okay, which one are we going to get if the game comes down on his shoulders? And I feel like there's a good chance it could, okay, because Indiana stops the run too. But we will see, okay? And then the style of play. Miami, you have to play your game. Because if you get in a game playing Miami or playing Indiana style of play, you're going to lose. It's simple as that. Okay. You get your back against the wall, you get uncomfortable, and it's just you're setting yourself up for failure. So you're going to have to play your game. You're going to have to beat them 3 to 4 at a time. I've said it multiple times throughout these playoffs, and they've done it each time. They beat you down and bully you 3 to 4 at a time. And that's what they're going to have to do. Control the clock, time of possession. Keep Mendoza and this offense off field. Okay, because you keep them off the field, these RPOs, everything timing, it can get messed up. I'm not saying it will. They could come out and play 20 minutes and score 40 points. Who knows? Okay, if you keep them off the field, you're going to get them out of rhythm. You're going to keep them cold, basically. Okay, and especially if you can get them off the field on defense. All right, control the clock. Once again, control the clock. You controlled it big time versus Ole Miss. You controlled it versus Ohio State. Got to do it for a 3rd time here. Okay. Now, Indiana, can you continue dominating? Okay. This is the best season ever in Indiana football history. Win or lose this game. Is this a team of destiny? Okay. What Signetti has done has been remarkable. He has changed coaching searches. He's changed coaching philosophies. He's changed it all in 2 years at Indiana. Okay. He took one of the most losingest programs, if not the most, in the history of college football, and in 2 years has them in the national championship undefeated. All right. Well, 1 year he had them in the playoff, and they got beat by the team going to the national championship. And then now we're here, undefeated versus Miami for all the marbles. Can you continue that? Can you continue this playoff domination that you had? You blew out Oregon. You blew out Alabama. Okay. Probably the most talented team you're going to play is on Monday. Okay. Since Ohio State, this is the most talented team you have played. And obviously Miami beat Ohio State. You can argue that they're more talented. Right? They have the NFL talent across the board, just like Ohio State did. How does Indiana fare? Because Indiana doesn't have the extreme talent that these other teams kind of have, but they have the effort. They have the do a job mentality. They have the we're going to win this game no matter what mentality. And passion trumps logic a lot of times. I got told that multiple times my 7th grade year by my football coach. Passion trumps logic. And this Indiana team has a hell of a lot of passion. The logical answer, if you just looked at these teams, don't look at the record, just look at the teams and what they have. It says Miami. Okay, you see the NFL draft picks that are about to happen. You see the 5 stars, you see the 4 stars, and then you look at Indiana and like, yeah, like what? The difference is they have developed, they have brought in guys who want to win, and they do a job with high effort. Okay, and I wrote it down a million times. I've said it a million times. I'll say it again. How do they fare up front? Okay. Can this offensive line handle Mesidor and Bain and this Miami D line? Can they run the football? Because no one all year has ran the ball in Miami. Okay. Same can be said about Indiana. So like we're both running into a wall here. One of them's going to figure it out more than likely. Okay, at least one. And they both might. We might have a rushing fest, but I doubt it. Okay. So how do they fare running the ball? How do they fare limiting that pass rush? And then on the defense side of the ball, can they get their stunts to work? Can they get pressure on Beck? Can they force them into mistakes like they have Oregon and Alabama? Okay. Can you put them in those 4th down situations where they got to have it and you get to stop? Can you get those types of plays again? Can you make those things happen? Because you play so hard, you execute so well, you force teams to play bad. And it's just basic. Okay. Do your job, and eventually this other team's not. And they've done it all year long. So how does that fare? Can they keep doing it? Because the success rate that they've been going at has been great. What happens if they don't? What happens if Mendoza throws 2 picks? What happens if they can't block up front? What happens if they have to make plays to win this game from behind? Okay. We'll see. I've seen them play from behind twice this year. Like truly from behind. I didn't watch the Iowa game. I know. But Penn State and Ohio State, they had to play from behind. They got it done versus Penn State. They got it done versus Ohio State with the arm of Mendoza. All right. Mendoza hit the 50-something yard pass to Becker versus Ohio State, and the whole game changed from that point on. Okay. Versus Penn State, he led a drive down the field, slinging it all over, and his receivers are making great catches because they want to win. They have high effort, and they're doing everything they can to make that play, and they did. And they beat Penn State. Okay. And that drives me into this. Can Mendoza play hero ball if he has to? The Heisman winner. Can he do it? And you're like, oh yeah, he won Heisman. Of course he did. He hasn't had to. Okay, that's the type of team that Indiana is. They don't need him to be. Okay, that's the special part about this team. You have a Heisman Trophy winner, and you don't need him to be Superman. You can just have him line up, play football, go through his reads, and do what he has to do, and he does it consistently. He does a job. He high effort. He wants to win. Okay. See a little goofy in the interviews? Who cares? All right, because at the end of the day, he's here to win, and he gives high effort. And just like this entire team, man, they play in the win. But can he play hero ball if he's forced to? What if they get down 10 and, hey, we got to sling it now? Can he keep making these amazing throws? Maybe he hasn't been dialed in the whole game. Can he lock in and be a hero? Can he be Superman if he needs to be? And it may not even come to that. We may not even have to talk about it or whatever. But there's a chance it could, because this Miami front is deadly. And if they break through, we saw Oregon get some pressure. I seen Ohio State get pressure. How does they fare? Okay, how's this O-line fare? Because they've been great in the playoff. Okay, they dominated. They dominated versus Alabama. They had some hiccups versus Oregon, but who cares? Look at the scoreboard. All right. It's prediction time. I'm gonna go ahead and say it. I think it's gonna be an absolute battle. All right, absolute fight from start to finish. I think both these teams are going to try to commit to the run, and one of them might figure it out. One of them may not. I don't know. I think they're both going to get their wins and the losses at the line of scrimmage. Miami's going to win a few reps here. Indiana's going to win a few reps here on both sides of the ball. Okay, I think the finesse will get the better of Miami's big guys up front a few times, and I think they'll get the better of Indiana a few times. Okay, I think we're going to see plenty of balance along the line of scrimmage. Okay, it's just going to be which one gets that extra edge when it matters. Who's going to get the 55% instead of 45% in terms of win rate? Okay, that's going to be a big key for me. But I think it's very balanced. It's just which one comes out on top. Okay. I think Miami does limit Indiana's run game. I really do. I think they stop the run game and make this more of Mendoza having to sling the ball. Okay. I think Mendoza is going to have to beat Miami. If Indiana's going to win this game, I think he's going to have to be the one to do it. With Surratt and Cooper and Becker, I think you're going to have to hit these guys. You're going to, I mean, he's definitely shown that he can do it. Okay. But he's going to have to do it for real on Monday. I don't think he's going to have a run game to really fall back on. They might get a couple big ones. Okay. I mean, Ole Miss got the big run. A&M couldn't get any. Ohio State had a couple good runs, but no one's been able to truly run the ball on Miami. I do think they'll get a couple, but I don't think they'll be able to actually run the ball, and I think they'll have to resort to the pass, okay? And then I think Miami's going to be able to play their style of game. I think they're going to shorten the game up. They're going to try to their best to control the clock, and they're going to try to beat them 3-4 at a time. And I think they're going to get the 3-4, okay? I think they'll eat up the stunts, okay? I know I said fit balance them along the line of scrimmage, but I think they're going to get theirs, okay? Indiana's probably going to get theirs too, but I think Miami's just going to get a tad bit more, okay? And I think it comes down to the last drive. Whichever quarterback has the ball, you're going to be down by 4 or something in that case. 3, 4, got to have it, okay? And it's which one is going to step up, all right? Because that situation, you're slinging the ball more than likely. And do we see Carson Beck lead another game-winning drive and get his third national championship and first as a starter? Do we see Fernando Mendoza go down the field and lead a game-winning drive and get Indiana a national championship? Which one do we see? And I think we're going to see one of them, or the defense stepping up, making the play. All right. It's going to come down to the last drive. I don't care what the spread is. I do not care. I think it comes down to the end. All right. And in terms of betting, take Miami to cover. Okay. I told you absolute battle. I preach how I think these things will go. I think it's going to be close. I do not think this game is a blowout. I know Indiana has dominated, and I don't think they truly dominate this one. I ain't saying they don't win yet. Okay. But, there we go. I don't think they just dominate Miami. Okay. I've said it a couple times. I mean, I think Alabama's more talented than Indiana. I think Oregon's more talented than Indiana. I think Oregon was well coached with all this talent. They could compete, and they just didn't. Okay. And maybe Indiana is just this dang good, and they just run through Miami. But I don't think it happens. I think this is a damn good football game, an absolute dogfight. And like I said, 3-4 at a time. Okay. Oregon wasn't trying to beat Indiana 3-4 at a time. They don't run the ball. They're not trying to beat you 3-4 at a time. Miami can. Miami has the offensive line. They have the big power back in Mark Fletcher. They can beat you 3-4 at a time, especially if they can handle you up front, which they've done throughout the year. And that leads me to say this. Miami with the upset. Don't care what the spread is. They're going to cover. Okay, that's what I would take. Miami's going to win this game. Okay, at home. So much was talked about them, how they fell off. But before they lost the game to Louisville, this is my number one team. Okay, they were the number one ranked team for me. All right, I had Miami number one then, and then they lost, and then rebound, and then you go and you just play like crap versus SMU, kill yourself with penalties, and then you turn it around. Then you start playing football. You went over to Pitt in the last week of the season and dominated them. All right. Then you trotted into College Station, one of the most hostile environments in the country, and you beat them 10-3. You held them to 3 points at home, dominated them. Okay, 7 sacks. Like I said earlier, you sacked Marcel almost as much in one game as he got sacked the entire year. And he didn't miss a game. All right. Then you trot up Ohio State. They were the number one team all year. They get beat by 3 in the Big Ten championship. They're still a 2 seed, and you just dominated them. All right. You had 2 bad drives on defense. Okay. You gave up 2 touchdown drives, but outside of that, and that was in the third quarter, and it didn't matter. You just controlled the clock. You beat them down and you bullied them. You bullied one of the most talented teams in the country. Okay. And when you are one of the most talented teams in the country as well, and you have a bully mentality, can you bully Indiana? And I think they end up, I ain't saying they're not going to dominate Indiana. It's, like I said, damn good football game. But I think they're going to have their moments of being a big time bully. Bully's going to take his licks in this game too. But they're going to win this football game. Okay. The key to, they got to finish drives. They can't settle for these field goals like they've done kind of throughout the playoffs. They had to settle for some versus Ole Miss and missed one. They had to just settle for a lot versus A&M and missed a lot. And they're going to have to finish drives. And I think they do. And I think they get the win versus Indiana at Hard Rock. Okay. Like, comment, subscribe. Tell me I'm wrong. I think we have a hell of a football game, though. But give me Miami.